Hey, real estate agents, don't be like an ostrich and put your head in the sand on all these changes that are coming our way in the industry. Do yourself a favor, join me today. Let's find a list of likely sellers and you will level up and dominate in your real estate marketplace. How's everybody doing? I am Elliot. I am going to be your host today of navigating the real estate jungle and leveling up your real estate lead gen. Really excited to be with you today as always, as we are going to be diving in, looking at who are some likely sellers. As we all know, there has been massive rippling changes coming at us year after year. And when we really look at the totality of all of these changes that are coming at us, right? It's like any major movement doesn't usually happen, bang, overnight. Sometimes there's a bang, but there's usually like, hey, what's that big domino that's going to be the change? And as we all know, that the National Association of Realtors entered into a settlement. I believe it's now probably 5-6 weeks ago, where the buyer compensation is going to be removed from the MLS. Now, I'm not going to beat that into the ground because I think that we've all heard it. We all know the changes that are coming. But what we are going to do is continue here at Zoodealio the same thing that we've been doing the last 5 years, is doubling down and focusing our efforts on finding sellers. And then I'm going to give you some strategies on how we long-term nurture, how we long-term convert them. Because one of the biggest things that you guys will always find, those of you that have plugged into my coaching sessions in the past, know that I am a big proponent of filling the top of that funnel. Your business is going to grow to the extent that your audience does. So what that means to me is, by me scaling out my message at a big capacity, my business is always going to grow. So when I get dedicated to that type of process, that type of appeal or a model inside of my business, regardless of what goes on inside of the marketplace, I'm going to be able to fight through it. Case in point, let's just say a few years ago, where we were more than 6 million transactions that happened in the marketplace in 2021. Well, in 2023, last year, we barely touched 4 million. And there's a lot of projections this year that, due to the inventory crisis, cost of capital, i.e. loans, high interest rates, that we are going to be barely above 3.5 million. Now, with the increased costs of MLS dues, National Association of Realtors pressure, less likely to make compensation from 50% of the transactions that go on out there, i.e. the buy side, right? The increased difficulty to earn compensation there. There are a lot of agents that will probably bail out of the business. Now, those of us that may be that are on this and that will watch this on YouTube or watching this live, actually probably serves us, because we are more the practitioners. We are the ones that are molding and sculpting our business on a day in and day out basis. So I want to encourage you in these times to actually, almost kind of like embrace this shift. I don't want to say shift is a gift, cliche saying, but there's always something that's coming, and we have an opportunity right now more than ever. Hey, as always, if you are finding value in this content that you are checking out today, we drop stuff every single week. So make sure that you subscribe, ring that notification bell so that you are in the know of what's going on, and you're always sharpening that edge to go out there and get new leads and ultimately close more deals, crush it, and grow that audience. I found this funny as I was kind of preparing for today's session with all of you, that I was thinking like, hey, there's that metaphor, right, of don't be that ostrich and put your head in the sand. And, where I actually was like, where the heck does that even come from? So I actually took a second and kind of looked at the reason why it's about. So essentially, the ostrich obviously is a massive bird. It's a flightless bird. And so they still, lay eggs. And so what they do is they dig a hole in the ground, and then they put their eggs inside the ground. And so what they do is, to check on their eggs after they dig the hole in the ground, they put their head down there and they move the eggs around to make sure that they, are hardening and maturing properly before they hatch. And so what it does is it gives that look that it's technically hiding from its predators, pretending like something's not there, but yet it's got this big massive body for the predator to come and attack it, and it's not even able to defend itself. So that's where that adage kind of comes from of, hey, don't be that ostrich that puts their head in the sand. So again, it gave us that metaphor that we all know and use so much today. So I want to use that in this situation. Don't be the ostrich putting your head in the sand, acting like these changes are not going to affect your market. Don't act like that, hey, by me not doubling down and using this opportunity of agents leaving the business that I can now showcase and say, hey, list your house with me and I'll represent you for free, right? I'm going to take you guys through some strategies of what that could look like here in just a moment so you can actually kind of roll through that compensation, right? Some of my theories are we're probably going to see 4% listings or getting away from potentially the 6% with a 0% compensation, and then probably buyers trying to work out some sellers' concessions. You'll obviously have to sign that buyer broker up front, but your plan will be, hey, buyer, we are going to be able to negotiate the concessions on this for you so I can get you the insights, the deals that you need. I can navigate you through the inspections. And then, of course, if you are that listing agent leading with that listing as you should be, most people, right, 60% of the people that are going to buy a house have a house to sell. Well, that means in most cases, they're going to need to get their existing house under contract before they can go put a new house under contract. That means they have to lead with the sell. So in that situation, even if you were to take a 4% listing, right, over here, you truly could technically represent them for free on the buy side. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't sign a 2.5% co-broke with them from an agency and say, hey, in the event that this doesn't happen, we can remove this. Or you're going to try to negotiate the concessions from the seller to buyer, et cetera, right? There's so many different pathways that I want to make sure that you guys are aware of, that you have at your fingertips, right? This is where I think that sometimes if we really get a plan in place, we are going to have a tremendous opportunity to really take advantage, like I said, because at the end of the day, let's just look, right? Like I know we were talking about on our podcast a couple weeks ago, Kayla had discovered while doing some research on the National Association of Realtors, I think she was preparing for a coaching call on something, it was what the numbers were, that they have actually removed how many agents are on their website, right? And that's, walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's usually a duck. So in this circumstance, that's because the numbers are probably falling pretty rapidly, right? As renewals happen, day after day, so many people are probably bailing out of the business and they didn't want to show that. Now, even if you want to go back way further, I think there was probably a couple years ago, I had done a coaching session where I had actually pulled those same numbers, and what I was looking at was the crash, 08, essentially that era of the crash of watching the numbers where we were at roughly, if memory serves me, like 1.3 million real estate agents, and it fell all the way to less than 1 million. But if we looked at that versus the transaction count per how many transactions there were per the agent, it actually moved. Arthur, I see that you got your hand raised, my man. I got a ton of stuff that I'm gonna hit on. So if you would, I'm going to come back to you on that in just a few minutes, if that's cool. So what I want to do real quick is let's take a look at some likely sellers here and how are we going to discover them. So I got really a couple of bonuses here for you guys today that I'm going to share. Number one, we're going to go through this sequence of how do we find sellers, how do we drive traffic to our site, how do we cultivate them after we've lead generated. Right? Because think the real estate industry in general, right? When you look at ad agencies, like even if you took it like an agency in general, right? That it's running ads for, chiropractors or law practice or real estate agents. Well, the conversion rate in real estate is far lower than most of those other industries. And the reality of it is yes, it's probably diluted because the lead is being sold, but it's also, I would challenge that a lot of the real estate agents don't have the staying power and they don't have the unique identifier to bring out the unique services that they have for that particular prospect. And they also don't have the systems in place for a long-term nurture. One of the things like I'll tip my hat to is if you really look at, chiropractors, independent practice doctors, independent practice attorneys. A lot of times their marketing is on point. Their follow-up systems are on point. And I want you to look at some of these other industries and be like, hey, what can I learn from them and apply it into my business today? Because at the end of the day, right? I mean, yes, they have a specific skill set that they're doing something, but a lot of it is based on fiduciary, right? Representing that person's highest and best interest, not so much the chiropractor, but a lot of the doctor stuff, right, is that exact same type of thing. Yes, they have to practice medicine and have to have a specific skill set, but at the end of the day, they must operate on having that patient, that client's highest and best interest at all times. So that's where we can look at these particular practices, learn from how they are capturing and cultivating that so that it ends up into business, right? So first thing I want to talk about real quick here is a resource that you guys can actually tap into. If you go to this URL right here, foragents.zoodealiowebinar.com, you can download several different ebooks here that are going to be around lead generation, lead cultivation, and then of course, ultimately, what do we say to get them to get into action to ultimately help them? So I want to take a quick moment on this and kind of go off script to talk about something on script. We were actually talking about this last week in our podcast, how to put away the particular script book. And although I agree, this is kind of like a agree, disagree type statement. I think that a lot of the old high pressure sales scripts is a dying capacity because people's meters are way higher than what they used to be. And it's really about leading with value. It's crushing that person with value. However, taking them through a repetitive discovery process to uncover what it is that they're looking for should absolutely be a framework of questions. Having an opening framework so that you can engage them in conversation is absolutely something that is necessary in today's marketplace. So this is where this is non-high pressure, it's very discovery, and it's about leading with value for your clients so that ultimately you're going to create repeat referral clients so that you do more business. As you're going to see here in just a moment, that's exactly some of the walk that we are going to go through, is what is really the tangible cost of a lead versus the tangible profit from a lead when you do it correctly. So let's take two steps back when I was sharing with a lot of the ad agencies and what's the conversion ratio between, from leads. A lot of that is because people are tire kicking, right? Depending on where they're at in their home selling or home buying process, home investment process as a whole. Many times we as agents are taught to look for people that are looking to buy, sell, invest, in the next 30 to 45 days, even a week, right? Some of the coaches I've had in the past, where I got to be so diligent that I'm looking for, right now people that are looking to pull the trigger. Where that model is fantastic for, now business, but I also want to challenge that virtually everybody that you come into contact with that owns a house or in general is a lead, because this is the greatest asset. It's one of the greatest opportunities to build wealth. It's one of the greatest tax write-offs. There's so many reasons that we all know as real estate professionals to buy, sell, invest in real estate. And we get to be the catalyst of making that happen for these people and impacting a ridiculous amount of people's lives if we do it right. Right? Even if in your career you sell 100 houses, let's say, over the course of your career. Well, think about the ripple effect of how many people that affects. The lives that are started, the security, the memories, all of those types of things that happen, the wealth, the tax benefit that all of that brings. So these are massive opportunities that I want you guys to be thinking about. All right, well, these things happen, but let's look at this as my business from a micro. So how do I drive traffic? How do I nurture / cultivate, and then ultimately convert that prospect from who I've never met to a met, then pulling them through the point of doing a transaction with them, and then ultimately they become a raving fan of mine, that they're giving me their friends, their mother, etc., right? As far as referrals, when they think about selling their house in 5 years from now, there's no question they're calling me back, right? What is that process? So going through this first, right, we want to take a look at being able to ultimately track your money. What are you spending on certain ads? Now, before we want to dive into this piece, right, I'm going to kind of do a blend of different topics today. So I'm going to, like I said, in an hour, we're going to be definitely hitting a lot of stuff, or remaining really 40 minutes. But right now, I want to look at ultimately not only our spend, but I want to touch base real quick on what I mean when I say spend. There's absolutely the tangible spend of, depending on if you're running direct social media ads, if you're running on AdWords specifically. These are all areas that you can absolutely scale up your message to bring your value proposition to a larger audience. And it could be as simple as, hey, homes with a pool in Boise, Idaho, on an acre or more that have horse stables, right? So like, depending on how niche you get, right, is what people are going to search as far as the keywords, or we're running something more to a broader audience potentially, in social media, right? Depending on if we want to drop a pin in a certain area, and then we're running a geofence, right? Or we are going to run to a segregated audience. Of course, now that has been, constrained. We can't do the niche down marketing and meta that we certainly once could. All right. So then from here, here's what I want us to look at: how wildly important it is to double down on the metrics of what you're doing and what you pay attention to. You want to first, obviously, I have to have an allocated budget. Now, let me give you just a pro tip here on this without a doubt. If you are unable to commit to an ad spend of 6 months before you start seeing results, because if this is new to you, and even if you're working with an agency or you're paying somebody to run your ads for you, right, it takes time to see what's working. It takes time for the pixel. It takes time to ultimately get the right amount of impressions and what's the right amount of clicks, so that you can actually start to see the sequences of these things pull through. Even if your ad budget is, $500, a lot of times you're going to want to niche down in a very specific area and dominate that with particular ads, would be my advice. But then from there, you want to scale up your message. A lot of times but at the same time, if you have a $10,000 budget, don't just blast that out and without niching down in a particular environment where you're not paying attention to these particular metrics, because that again is going to be just setting the money on fire if you're not watching what happens. Okay. So when we start looking at, hey, how many impressions am I getting, right? So what that means in most cases is, how many searches did I return on? How many possible clicks did I have? Or how many times did somebody actually internalize and view my ad for more than 2 seconds, right? Via Meta. Then from there, how many times did they actually click, scroll through, read what I had, where I had a potential for them to click on my CTA, right? Which is that call to action button usually, which is going to lead to going to search for a home, discover more about your selling process, discover more about your cash offer, and then what's my click-through rate, which is how many times did I actually get a registration from the actual clicks that came through. And then from there, once I get those actual leads, right? So generating an actual tangible lead that even, for the record, it could even be bad information, right? But now let's just say we have good information. How many leads do I get that actually turn into conversations? How many conversations do I have to have that turn into deals? Okay, so these are the types of sequences, right, that we really need to knuckle down on and learn the process to make sure that we're getting the ROI that we really want on our business. Okay, and then the last thing here that I will touch on real quick is, what is that lifetime value? Because again, when we look at what that repeat referral is, when we smash it and do a good job, you'll see the returns are quite amazing. Okay, so This statement, I've used this in the past, and I've actually had some feedback. People are like, well, why would I do that when this is such a low return? So first of all, this is Google. And when you have a call to action like Zoodealio, where you can bring multiple instant cash offers instantly, and where they can monitor their home's value, get the trends and insights, on a month in and month out basis, these are compelling CTAs that I believe you can absolutely smash these types of rates. But here again, this is where I want you to just share the evidence with you of what's out there. This is, what is a good converting rate for real estate when running ads, right? And between anywhere from 0.5% to 1.5%. But let's take a look at that. What does that actually look like in lead cost? So let's do the math on this real quick, okay? So let's just say that you will jump all the way down as a real estate agent to generate a lead for sellers is, again, and a lot of times, depending on the market, it could absolutely be more than $75. But I also know some sources out there that if you're willing to play that 18 to 24 month game, you can get it far less than $75. When we look at this, let's just say that you have to generate 10 leads to get yourself into a good conversation. One of those people is 24 months out. You have another 10 that you've pulled in. So you now have an investment in this math is, times 20, simple math is $1,500. Well, that $1,500, then one of those people ends up becoming a client. You do a transaction with them. Well, if you do that in that particular, 2-month time frame, like we were just talking about right here, right? The average home sale right now is $400,000. And if we do it from a sell standpoint, like we're talking about, well, guess what? If we have a commission today at 3% of the sales price of $400,000, well, guess what? That's $12,000 that's going to be in your pocket. So it's a very simple mathematical equation, right? Would we spend $1,500 to get an return of $12,000? Well, of course, the answer for 99 point all of us is going to be yes. But there's a part that most of us miss, and that's exactly where I want to double down on and start looking at right now, this whole piece, okay? So let's just walk through this, right, and look at this from that 30,000 foot view and why it's so important to not only generate the lead, to convert the lead, to build a relationship, but then furthermore, maintain that lead, right? When we spend so much money as agents, time, energy, and effort, doing open houses, putting them in our car, doing 3 listing appointments, let's say as an example, doing price reductions, taking their calls in between when they have, tax questions around real estate, or asking you to send them their settlement statement the next year, or, hey, my mom has a question around this, can you answer that question for me, right? Which is technically free advice, which is all good. It's part of the gig. But what I'm getting at is there's so many of these things that we do. And it's really important for us to constantly bring value so that we get those phone calls, so that we get these opportunities. Now let's just go through this real quick granularly, right? So let's say that we had an ad spend, and we'll round up from the $1,500 that I did just a moment ago, and you have a $2,000 spend. Well, if that client sells their house, $12,000 profit. Maybe there's ads, maybe there's listing photos, et cetera, right? This is, again, just a very light kind of overview of what this client will bring. Well, through, let's say that you start running client appreciation parties, you have, just general retargeting that you run on your sphere of, on your SOI, which I'm a huge fan of, that you should bring your unique value propositions. You upload your email addresses in there, right? Then you can just run very simple budget retarget to them on an annual basis. But let's say that these people are repeat and referral. Well, studies show that people move roughly every 5 years. Well, that's just them. So if you're going to be planning to do real estate for a course, if you're like me, almost 20 years in the game, well, that means people have now turned over 5 times from when I 4 times from when I very first started. The other part I want us to be really clear on is when you become an expert in certain, areas, you get to push the narrative. Like, for example, let's say that you practical normal home ownership. Well, if you start to learn about investment opportunities and rate of return, the cap rates on certain properties, these are other niche areas that you can start to deploy to your database, and you'll be able to be a deal identifier that's going to create passive income for them. And so when you can niche down, for example, on an audience like that, a lot of these people will do the deal and they'll constantly buy deals. They'll always be a buyer for you from a property, right? So you generate a unique property, for example, a cash offer, okay? Let's say you go get a cash offer from Zoodealio, and for whatever reason, the cash offer doesn't maybe work. You say to the people, hey, I happen to have a network of other buyers that I'd like to put this out to. However, the offers aren't instant. It usually takes me a few days to put this out to them and see what kind of numbers I can generate. You could put this out to that audience of investors and see if you're able to generate an additional offer. Now, you still created that with your cash offer. You still did that from running your ad. You still now created an off-market deal. Now, I want you to think about two areas that you're really hitting there. Number one, you're satisfying that investor audience by bringing an off-market deal to them that is invaluable to them, right? You have an agreement with them, like, hey, once you've fix and flip this, once you depreciate the property and you want to resell it 8, 9, 10 years after you've had a tenant, as an example, I want you to relist with me, right? That's part of the deal. There's so many different ways on this that you're going to be able to grow and elevate your deal count by niching down in this, and you're always using the frameworks of what we're talking about right here, right? Leading with that cash plus, leading with the offer dashboard, and bringing value to your audience. Okay. So that's one component, but I also want you to think about when you do that, right? Other investors usually know other investors. Well, guess what? When you also do it for just a normal, somebody who's not an investor, buying a house, living it, just a normal circumstance, well, they're going to eventually sell that house, life events. They're going to want to upgrade their house, downgrade their house. Guess what? By you ultimately bringing the value and having the proper nurture sequences in place, they're going to reach out to you. So these are the things tools I'm going to give you here in just a second on how we be able to do that. And all of this constantly revolves around tools at Zoodealio, your offer dashboard, the offering of the cash plus, sell now, move later, fix it and list it, right? All of these value propositions that we need to keep in front of our audience at all times, so that when they are ready to do a transaction, they don't hesitate to reach out to you and you are the only one that they talk about. Okay. So when we look at this, right, just in its little finite piece here, this really, again, is a simplified approach. But again, if we look at this conservatively from what we were talking about here, you have really a lifetime profit. It looks like when we do all the math together, right, and this is just being able to do a transaction and a half with them because they have a house to sell, house to buy, commission pressures, etc. We have an opportunity to have a pretty healthy profit to them. Okay, so now that we kind of get the monetary driver behind this, right? Because in order for our business to constantly grow, this is a for-profit industry. We must lead with revenue. So we want to look at, all right, how do I now generate more revenue? So you have a couple of tools that are going to be right at your fingertips that I want to start sharing with you guys, especially the new ones that are on here at Zoodealio. Number one, you have your cash offer landing page where you're going to be able to drive traffic to your website. Now, also, heads up real quick, I imagine Kayla will be sharing about it next week. We have a new landing page that will be rolling out that's been revamped, modernized. I'm super excited, and it's going to crush it in the marketplace. It will perform extremely well, so I look forward for you guys to drive it and use it. Outside of your landing page that we supply you with your main URL, you have the ability to have your own custom landing page, which is the widget that is inside of your Zoodealio dashboard. Those of you that are new on here, if you were to go log in to your agent dashboard, click on settings, click on integrations, then widget. And then you can take that code and plug it into an existing website that you have. So for example, if you had joeparkscashoffer.com or Joe Parks Home Buyers, right, which you've been driving traffic, it has search engine optimization on it, right? You have a lot of things that are going there. You 100% could take this widget or build a button says, find houses, excuse me, let me get a drink here. Find houses that are for sale in 85249, right? Now we're leading with the buy side. But then we also have a button that says, hey, got a home to sell? Get instant cash offers with a click of a button, right? So then boom, click, it pulls them over there. You can run that from a button standpoint, or it pulls them to another page where they can enter in their address and that sequence runs out. Now, I'm going to be light on that right now. In the event that you guys want to build out some of those frameworks, don't hesitate to reach out to our customer service. We are happy to do something specific, kind of do a needs and wants analysis for your own specific needs so that it makes sense for what you're trying to do within that particular framework. Here's an example of a customized landing page that you can see right here where it's centered around the agent getting multiple cash offers. What are the individual offerings that brings, and everything is branded and centered around that agent. Now, you have another landing page that we supply you with as well, which is the ability to monitor that home value, the trends and insights. So the part I want everybody to see here that's a little bit different is kind of meeting that consumer where they're at. Okay, this is lead generation 101 right here. When you have people that are ready to pull the trigger now, you need to meet them where they're at. And when you have people that are, which is the 95%, 18 months out or more, that's where this monitoring your home's value, trends, and insights will come into play. Okay, so unlock these tailored insights on your specific property. Okay, the whole goal of where you will find this is in Blast within Zoodealio. So if you're not a member of or a part of Blast yet, I highly encourage you to go into your dashboard, subscribe to Blast, click on it, upload 500 contacts, and you could start monitoring those people and creating deals, right? Simple mathematical equation. Before I dive back into our content here, you have 500 people, right? Turnover rate across the country, 100-year standing is 5%. So that means 25% or 25 people of that 500 are going to move over the next 12 months. Are they going to choose to hire you to sell their house when that happens? And then from there, 60% of those people are also going to buy a house, right? So that's what, roughly 32 transactions that are going to happen this year just from 500 people, right? Let's go on the conservative side because turnover rates may get a little bit of pressure on it with the high rates and, housing prices the way they are. Let's cut that in half, right? And then say it's 16. So now you have 16 transactions that are going to happen every 500 people. Well, again, this is a no-brainer to put yourself into that kind of opportunity. 16 transactions at an average price of $400,000 with $12,000 commission, right? That's more than 120 grand in revenue from this running and doing this correctly. So again, don't be that ostrich putting your head in the sand. Take advantage of these opportunities. Put systems and processes in place in your business so that you are constantly growing, leveling up, and ultimately providing better service, right? That's one of my favorite things about all of this prospecting, marketing, and advertising is when you do it right, you're giving people what they want, right? You're not the pushy, hard salesperson. You're meeting people in a time of need, right? People walk into a restaurant to eat because they're hungry. People want to embark on your real estate services because they need a house. They want to invest. They want to buy, right? People want to buy. They don't want to be sold. So help them discover what it is that they want to buy. Lead with that type of mindset and you'll always crush it. Okay. So let's start putting some of these pieces together. Once we have generated the lead, one of the biggest areas where I see agents fall short time after time is that long-term nurture sequence and or keeping something of value in front of them. So let's take a little walk through here just to make sure that I'm communicating clearly on what typically happens. So an agent generates a lead, right? They get it from an open house, or let's say you have an ad budget running. Well, a lot of times you're going to call that lead 1 to 3 times. That's 90% of the agents out there. And then it's not 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 that happens. It's actually 11 times now that somebody needs to see your ad, be touched, reached out to before they really start to internalize what the value proposition is that you're bringing to them. When you make actual contact with them, you can speed these things up. But I also want to give you guys some pro tips around certain things. This is where you have your audience of met, know you, not met, don't know you, right? So then we have usually this bucket is going to outweigh this bucket tremendously. So this is where you want to deploy value propositions like the launch campaign, right? Don't know you, haven't met you, and what you want to do is take them from a not met to a met. And I'm going to show you how to do that in just a second. Over here, these people that know you, like you, trust you, when they think of real estate, they think of you. These are the people that you want to be deploying blast to, right? And you know how you're going to get really, really good results with that is you're going to call them up and say, hey, Bill, it's Elliot over at ABC Realty team. Hey, I wanted to just give you a quick call because I actually shot you over this whole new system that we have that allows you to monitor your house value. It shows you what different cash buyers, are always willing to pay for your house. I know you may not be in the market, but it's always a cool thing to know what cash buyers will pay for your house. And then it also will give you some insights and other trends that are going on with your house. It's a monthly free report. It's just a value add that we're giving to our clients. Want to let you know you have it, and it's in your email inbox now. Right? Got any questions, etc. Right? So just that simple phone call to my prospects of the 500 as an example, even if it's only 200, put 200. If it's 500, okay, maybe it takes you 2 weeks to call through your 500 people, leave that voicemail. If you have more technology and you want to do a blast text, you obviously can do that. However you want to do that, right? The goal is to get them to interact with it, to engage with it. Because once they do that, usually they're going to open it up month after month. Then there's going to be triggers inside of the system that as soon as they look at it 3 times in 1 month or 3 months consecutively, you're going to get notifications from Zoodealio that they're more likely to sell, more likely to engage, because these are people that we should talk to, right? Then we have follow-up conversations with them. It says, hey, Bill, it's Elliot over at ABC Realty. Hey, just wanted to give you a quick follow-up call. I saw 6 months ago, when I had last chatted with you, that, we sent you that new home report tool. And I see that you've been checking out different cash offer options. I wanted to see if you had any questions about those, because some of those are whole new ways to sell your house, really cool stuff where you could rehab your house, sell it for top dollar on the open market, and you get all of that difference. So I was just curious, did you want to know how those work, or are you actually looking to potentially get a cash offer on your house now or sometime in the next several months? Those types of engaging conversations that all happen from the system of how we're building these things, okay? So that's bucket 1, right? Those are our high intent people that we already know, like, and trust, right? That's exactly what we were talking about before. I created these leads. I'm nurturing, I'm servicing my known existing raving fan database. Well, here's people that I've generated maybe leads from, got them from, open houses. I haven't really had a whole lot of contact with them. I got them from a land voice canceled expired list. I got them from past buyer leads that my team couldn't get on the phone. Whatever that looks like from this framework, I'm now going to deploy these types of strategies to them. So this right here, what we are looking at, you're going to be able to find this for everybody that's on this at your marketing tab inside your Zoodealio dashboard. Click on marketing, then click on campaigns, and you'll be able to see one of the options in there is the launch campaign, and you'll be able to download all of this here so that you could build this inside of your CRM. Okay, so what I want to do real quick is give you guys some of the looks and the frameworks of how this works, and all of this is copy and pastable inside your email builder, inside your CRM as an FYI. Okay, what you will want to do is the CTAs, that's where you're going to have to go in and customize that button and put in the URL to your site. Okay, now the one other pro tip that I want to make sure that you guys are aware of on this is being able to make sure that your CRM provider, it can return the opens and the clicks to you, because that's what you want to capture. That's gold for taking these people from a not met to a met in the frameworks of which we are talking about. So after you now take this, let's just say, again, we'll use probably very similar case studies of what's going on in the real estate industry. So you have, 300 people to 500 people, past clients, friends, family, raving fans. Then you have a bucket over here of 2,000 leads that you don't know them, but you have their contact information. Well, this is where you want to deploy the launch campaign to them, and then we want to watch for that engagement by them. You build this inside your CRM, you deploy this out to the 2,000 people, and then when they open it and click it, the people that click it, you then want to call them and have the exact same conversation that I was just having on the other side with Blast. It's just a little bit more of a high intent, more bells and whistles going on in Blast, where this is very much so a general email campaign. However, this is how that conversation would look with them. Hey, Joe, it's Elliot over at ABC Realty. Hey, I see that you've been checking out the Cash Plus home selling program that I've been, sent you last week. Hey, I wanted to give you a quick call because I was curious. Did you want to know how that program works? Or are you actually thinking about getting a cash offer on your house at some point in time this year? Because it has a really cool option of where you can rehab your house and then sell it, and you get all of those upside proceeds. Pretty cool, right? Let's say they say, yeah, interesting, not interested. Hey, well, while I got you, what I'd like to do is we actually have a free home report where it monitors your home's value and it shows all of the different options that your house qualifies for and gives you some insights on your property value and things going on inside your neighborhood. I went ahead and invited you to it. It's a free monthly report. You'll get it monthly and you can connect with it. There you go. So now we took them from the launch campaign over to Blast on that piece, and now all my monitoring and marketing and all those things kind of came into play. So I know that that's hopefully pretty clear in the sequence that I gave. So I want to just kind of do a quick little refresher of what we're doing here. So now we've generated the lead, right? Got all their contact information, whatever that looks like, maybe a lead magnet, some ad spend, etc. Well, now I have some type of nurture sequence of what's going on inside of the launch campaign to where now I'm progressing them to an automated monthly marketing piece to them to where I'm watching for their higher level of engagement. So it's a big nurture sequence that when they trigger as a likely seller, I'm going to be able to call them and make sure that I'm on top of and being an agent they are going to interview for the job of selling their home, bringing them the Cash Plus, the sell now, move later, fix it then list it, or whatever their needs are. I want to be at the center of earning that prospect's business. And so that's where these are the frameworks that will ultimately help you do that. So now on this, just as an FYI, the way that this works, you guys will have access to all this here. This gives you everything that you need. If we go back on the beginning here, you can kind of see there's a script here, how you're going to build this inside of your CRM. This gives you the subject line. And like I said, when you go inside of this, all of this is a hyperlink inside of the Zoodealio dashboard. You'll be able to copy and paste this into your CRM, press go, and ultimately start doing more deals. So it's a really, really cool opportunity for you guys to take advantage of it and get start drumming up more business right now. Hey, thanks for tuning in today. As always, if you are finding value, please share with a fellow entrepreneur, a fellow real estate professional. It helps us keep going, circulate this information. But as always, remember, we drop new stuff every single week. So make sure to ring that notification bell, subscribe so that you don't miss a beat, and you're always leveling up your lead gen. Thanks.